We'll skip the intro of today's video, though I intend to stop skipping the intro. I've done that a little too much lately. Anyway, today as promised, I'm going to talk about that company that I got on with, that I talked a little bit about yesterday. And I don't normally bring stuff like this into videos where I talk about God and biblical stuff, but today it intertwines. So today that's what I'm going to do. Today is the supposed launch day of the company and the announcing of the CEO. I haven't seen anything about it yet on Facebook, which is where it does most of its operating for now. I guess I'll check again later before work. And this is all going to tie back into what I talked about in the last, well, not the last, but I believe the last video before the last video was when I talked about what the biblical definition of being meek, and how it does in fact mean being gentle and not seeking others' destruction and not retaliating. But I also talked about how it's not necessarily discouraging self-defense, and more specifically, it's not saying to be a doormat. To be meek does not mean to be a doormat. In fact, there are times when we have to stand up for ourselves, like when somebody tries to force us into renouncing our faith. We stand up for ourselves and that we keep our faith. Do we accept the persecution for keeping our faith? Yes. But do we submit to them by denouncing our faith? No. That's where we stand up for ourselves. We keep our faith. And there's so many examples in the Bible of putting your foot down. And there are many times when we cannot be a doormat and put our foot down. And some of the most notable examples of this take place in the book of Daniel. And perhaps the most famous one of all in that book is Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who were told, when the Babylonian king wanted everybody to worship the statue that the king had made, these three did not. They chose to still honor God. They chose to stay faithful to God and worship Him alone. That made the king angry. So they were thrown into that fiery furnace. But God protected them. He kept them alive. And then the Babylonian king acknowledged God is God. And that's probably the most well-known example, the most memorable, or at least the biggest example that everybody talks about is these three. They stood up for their faith. They put their foot down. They refused to worship that statue, even though they've submitted to Babylon, the country that has taken them into exile from their home in Israel, even taken away their Israelite names. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that's their Babylonian names that were given to them in their exile. That wasn't even their real names. But they accepted it. They accepted a lot of the stuff, but when it came to betraying their faith, like eating Babylonian food and disobeying the food laws of the Torah, or worshiping idols, false gods, when it came to doing that, they put their foot down. They said no. They didn't do it. They were meek in that they submitted to the new authority, but they put their foot down when that new authority tried to make them betray God. So being meek does not mean being a doormat, but it does mean to not retaliate, and it does mean to not cause any destruction when not necessary. And Christ himself, he calls himself meek, and he demonstrated being meek in that he allowed himself to be taken and nailed on that cross. Christ showed meekness in that, and that's a notable example as well. But he also flipped the money changers' tables in the temple because they were turning the house of God into a den of thieves when it should have been a house of prayer. See, Christ was putting his foot down and showing that God was not going to allow that. In fact, he was not going to allow that. He was God in the flesh. But the point remains the same, is that he put his foot down, but he didn't seek the harm of others. He didn't seek to cause chaos or destruction. He didn't cause chaos. Everything, there was an order to everything Christ did. He was the perfect example of meekness. He's the perfect example of everything, being God. And this new company that I've signed on with, I'm not going to quit the job I have now over it, because being a new business has potential to fail, but it also has potential to end up being really awesome. But either way, I'm not quitting this job I have over it. I will quit the job I have now, eventually, but not for this. And see, being a founding member, I'm not exactly a high-ranking official in the company, but I'm up there. Basically, my role is going to be a marketer. I have no idea how that's going to work. And the person who helped me get into this is a fellow believer, and he's on fire for God. I believe he recently renewed his relationship with God after overcoming some hardships of his own. And this is a really awesome opportunity to be part of this company that does, natural products that can help people with their problems naturally without that factor of addiction. So far, all they've really done is arrange things around on Facebook. There's about 1,000 of us gathered already, so it looks promising. I will say that, and I'm not going to use the company's name because it's been specifically requested that we don't. The theory of the company is that people will Google its name rather than coming directly to us, and they want us to come directly to us because they want us to be set apart. It's kind of an interesting way of looking at it, but the company also wants us to make our Facebook profiles more uniform, like the company, having our faces on our profile pictures and the Newtonic stuff in our background. And I just dropped the company's name. Don't look it up. But that's where I stand my ground, is that I'm not going to alter my Facebook profile too much, because I never meant for my Facebook or my YouTube to be really a whole lot about business. I mean, I will do some business stuff on my social media platforms, but that's not what they're all for. They're mostly for, being social media. It's also for getting the word of God around, which I'm very active in doing on YouTube. On Facebook, I do more written stuff, or sometimes I'll share these videos to Facebook. But as far as changing my profile picture, I'm not going to do that. Those of you who follow me on Facebook know that my profile picture is my boot sole with that cross shape in the sole, because that to me shows basically what kind of person I am, the kind of person God made me. And that's what I want people to see when they see my profile. And the reason I haven't changed my profile picture on my YouTube is because it's been that way too long, and the YouTube algorithm hates my videos. Not because I'm a Christian, it's not Christian persecution or anything like that. It's just because my channel is so versatile that the algorithm doesn't really know where to put me. So the only thing my channel has going for it as far as growing, even though I don't care about the numbers, I just care about, I just care that the right people see my videos when they need to. And one of the factors I have going for me in making that happen is that my profile picture on this channel has not changed since it was made. It's not even a profile picture. It's just a purple circle with the letter D in it for dinosaur. But it's going to stay that way, because if I were to change it now, I would lose my branding. But what I have done is in the background of my Facebook profile, I did put basically the company information in the background picture, but not on my actual Facebook profile. Not the actual profile picture. That's where I drew the line. So even though I sort of did what the company asked, I also drew a line. And that's the thing that we got to learn how to do as believers, is we need to be meek, but we also need to draw the line. We also need to stand up for our faith. We can't let ourselves be doormats and let you know, the government or whoever tell us not to be people of faith, to not believe. We are to stand up for our faith, but to be meek and accept, some of the backlash from it at the same time. And that is what being meek is. It's being strong and able to do stuff, but choosing to not seek the harm or seek any destruction. And that's one lesson that 2020 and 2021 have really taught me, is that it's important to put your foot down and stand up for, your interests and especially your faith, because not everybody's always going to do it for you. God will always do it for you, but you got to trust in him to give you that strength. And sometimes that strength comes from defending our faith. And that's basically what I wanted to talk about today. And like I said, I don't normally bring business and other stuff into Bible topic videos, but today I felt it intertwined, and I felt led to make this video this way. And I hope that it reaches the right people. Anyways, guys, I'll see you in the next video, God be willing. And I hope it's helped you. God bless you all.